So, Ted, are you feeling that?
Am I feeling what?
Are you feeling the call of the wild?
I don't know about the call of the wild, but I'm feeling the call of the Wildshape.
Druid build or druid discussion?
I think discussion. 5e D&D, what can you do when you Wildshape?
Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and today, as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Hey, maybe it's your first time joining us in Ted's Basement. It's a place where we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
All right, so we're going to talk about the different things you can do while you Wildshape. There's definitely some restrictions about Wildshaping.
So you can't do anything that's going to require you to talk, and you can't cast spells. So, are there any other real limitations that we have besides that?
Pretty much, you get access to all your class features and race features, as long as they don't require anatomy and your new form wouldn't keep you from doing them.
All right, so do we want to break this down by class? I mean, I know we did something similar of, what you can do when you rage.
Yeah, so I think we should break it down by class. But first off, there are some generic areas that we can cover because they're class features that are shared by a lot of different character classes.
So we do have a number of these that we can look at. If there's a way to calculate your armor class, so like unarmored defense, or if you're going to get something like extra attack, I think these are things that a bunch of people get the options. I think totally works.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have unarmored defense, you can choose to calculate your armor class as unarmored defense, or you can use the Wildshape. They do not stack. You don't add them together. Don't even ask. That's just not how 5e works. Extra attack, you can either extra attack or you can multi-attack. You cannot do both. You have to pick one.
Correct. We also have, anything that's a spellcaster and you cast a spell that you concentrate on, well, that clearly is going to work because you can continue concentrating while in Wildshape, and, you can use that improved constitution if you have it from the animal form.
Yeah, a caveat to that is actually any spell that just has a duration you can cast. Where with Barbarian Rage, you couldn't concentrate on spells. In Wildshape, you don't have that restriction. So that opens up a lot of spells choices to you. It's just the fact that you can't do it while you're a beast.
So we also have Evasion, which a couple classes wind up getting, and as well as some of the channel divinities don't actually require you to verbalize. You just need to, have the symbol on you. And, if you Wildshape, you can have your amulet or holy symbol still appear around your neck in the Wildshape form.
Yes, there's a lot of variations on the channel divinity. So with them, you're going to have to look at the specific wording and see if they're usable or not, because there's a ton of different channel divinities.
But you're not turning undead.
Yes, you're not turning undead because you actually have to speak a prayer, where other things you can present your holy symbol. So I would say if it's displayed around your neck, that would work for me as the GM. And there are other channel divinities that don't even require that.
Right. So before we get into the classes, we want to invite you to check out Nerdarchy the store. Dave, you want to tell them a little about what's going on over there?
All right, so Nerdarchy the store has tons of digital products that are basically 5e things that we've made in these videos for our Patreons, and we've put them over there. There's adventures, there's heroics to hit dice, new rules for using hit dice in new and interesting ways. We've got fantastical mounts. There's tons of stuff over there.
Lots of great products you can go check out. We even have some free stuff you can do. The link is going to be down in the description below. So let's dive into Barbarian.
All right, so starting off with Barbarian, we already covered extra attack. We already covered unarmored defense. The main hallmark of Barbarian is going to be rage, and you can absolutely rage in your Wildshape. Reckless attack is going to work while you're Wildshaping.
There's actually most things, are really going to cover. Danger sense, fast movement, these are all things, pretty much just about everything is going to work.
Yeah, the only place where you might have to look is at your subclass features. That's where some of the things you're not going to be able to do, because some of them are actually spellcasting. So you can't do that while you're Wildshape, but most of your Barbarian stuff is going to stack nicely. So next up, we've got Bard.
Bard is very heavy on the spellcasting. We already talked about you're not casting spells. The real tricky thing is, looking at the specific wording of bardic inspiration. So we put this as a question mark, and you're really going to have to verify with your particular GM as to whether they're going to allow it or not, because it says, through song or music you inspire the others, and you're talking about fractions of seconds that is your bardic inspiration, because it's a bonus action. So like, do I stamp my, my feet or give a wolf howl? Will that count?
The flavor text is through song or music. The actual requirement is your ally must be able to hear you. So you can make sound in your wild shape. I would say, as a GM, I would allow it.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, verify with your GM ahead of time if this is going to be something that works. I think a Bard Druid is a pretty cool combination. They're both, full casters, so you're going to have a lot of fun with it. I got to admit, the bear that inspires me to fight better is pretty darn cool.
So the only thing else with the Bard is going to be their subclass features, and these are all over the place. Sometimes you're going to be able to use them, sometimes you're not. With all the subclass features, one of the main things to look at, if it involves attack. If it says weapon attack, no, you can't use it. If it says simple or martial weapon, no, you can't use it. But if it says melee weapon attack, that's an attack type, you're good to go. You should be golden.
Cleric is, pretty cut and dry. Again, this is one that's a, heavy on the spell casting. Your divine strike is going to work. Everything else, you've got to really look at your channel divinities and your subclass features and see what's actually going to work and what's not. But we're not diving into subclasses with this.
And oddly enough, we rag on Divine Strike all the time. But that being said, Divine Strike is awesome while you're wild shaping.
I'll agree with that one.
Next up is, where we're getting our wild shape from Druid. And oddly enough, nearly everything stacks from being a Druid with wild shaping. There are a couple exceptions. Mainly it's the spell casting, but when you start getting into the subclasses, a lot of the subclasses give you cool abilities that you can use while you're wild shaped.
So next up we have fighter, and short of wearing armor, you're going to be able to cover things really easily when you shift into an animal form. Action Surge, one of the best abilities in the game, is going to be super awesome. If you've already got things that you're hitting hard, being able to get some extra attacks in there, super great.
Second Wind is also a great ability. Bonus action, gain extra hit points. Battle Master is going to be all over the place with your maneuvers, as is all your other fighter subclasses are going to be hit and miss. You're going to have to read carefully. Like we said, anytime it says weapon attack, that's going to exclude it from being able to use as a wild shape.
Moving into Monk, we have a lot of fun stuff. You've got your slow fall, you've got your martial arts, you've got your key points, lots of things that you're going to be able to do and be a lot of fun at the same time, because you're technically being able to, you're unarmed, really, you're not using a weapon, so you could technically dial up the damage die for your wild shape attacks.
Yeah, pretty much with Monk, it is easier to list the things you cannot do than you can do. Monk crosses over with Druid with wild shape super well. Matter of fact, you get to the point where you have to stop taking monk levels because you no longer have the levels to multi-class to get the wild shape to begin with. It's a matter of picking and choosing how many of the monk abilities do you want to stack with your wild shape.
Super awesome, combination. Monk Druid, definitely recommend it. So next up is Paladin. Dave, do you want to get into the list of stuff there?
Sure. The Sense Divine is going to work. Your Lay on Hands is going to work. Your Smites are going to work. Most of your abilities are going to work. Your auras are all going to work. Paladin is another great combination with wild shape.
The only thing you're really going to have to, lose out on is, if you want to actually cast spells, you can't do that while you're wild shape. Your fighting styles, just like the fighter, are going to wind up suffering there because they just don't cross over into, animal form.
And again, just, with your subclasses and all the abilities, you just have to read and see what they're defining, their abilities for, especially when it comes to attacks.
All right, next up we have Ranger, and we've already got a heavy nature theme, so I think there's going to be a lot of crossover here as well.
Well, with the Ranger, a lot of your abilities for the core class involve the exploration pillar of the game, so they pretty much will all cross over. When you get into subclasses, that's where it's going to be hit and miss again. But there are certain subclasses like the Beastmaster Ranger, where you're going to get access to everything that you have.
So I think, the issue with the exploration side of things is being able to communicate that with your companions. So if you're going to go Ranger Druid, might I suggest Ghostwise Halfling?
You're looking at that telepathy, aren't you?
I am looking at that telepathy. Or go Warlock, and you combine that with the Pact of the Old Ones. All right, so next up is Rogue, and this is one that I'm gonna suggest avoiding, because the bulk of what the Rogue does is sneak attack. You're literally every other level getting another die, and you can't sneak attack while in Wildshape.
There's a bunch of abilities you can use as a rogue. Uncanny Dodge is one of them. Cunning Action is another great ability that you're going to get. Evasion, we already mentioned. There's a couple others. So there is crossover, but like Ted said, a bulk of what you're going to do as a rogue is sneak attack. And what you're not going to do as a wild-shaped rogue is sneak attack.
So if you're looking for some of those other early abilities and you're willing to forego the sneak attack damage while you're in wild shape, by all means do it, but I'm going to put this on the not recommended.
Now, that being said, if you're not interested in building a combat-oriented character and you want the utility of Wild Shape, then I would say it's actually really great. Who's going to make a better cat burglar than a wild-shaping druid?
That is true. You can fly in or sneak in as a mouse. I mean, I've had my own issues with mice in the house, so I totally understand how easy it would be for a mouse to get in, steal something. It's on their person. Whoosh, they wild shape back out and sneak out. Never knew they were there. No evidence.
Okay, next we have Sorcerer and Wizard. I'm going to group these together for the reason that they're pretty much the same, and anything you get is only going to be from the subclasses. The main classes themselves don't give you anything that is going to cross over, and when it comes to the subclasses themselves, you're going to have to kind of pick and choose. They're 100% spellcasters. Everything is built around that. So if you don't cast a spell that you're concentrating on, you're not going to have access to magic at all while wild shaped.
Druid and other casters, they do work well together because you never suffer from the loss of spell slot usage. You're just suffering from the getting access to the higher level spells. But specifically looking at the wild shape angle, yeah, I think Sorcerer or Wizard are put on the top of the charts of not to mix with if you're planning to go on a combat heavy wild shape.
I don't know, maybe a Circle of the Moon War Wizard and you can turn into a Battle Beast.
Oh man, Battle Beast.
That is actually one of the wizard traditions where you would get quite a bit of crossover. And also at the higher levels when you're concentrating on a spell, it would increase your armor class, which would be super useful. They do have the ability where it's like a mini shield to deflect attacks, which the only requirement for that is they can't cast a spell on that round or the following round. They can only use cantrips, so this isn't going to be a problem for that, or they can get a bonus to their saving throws. Having played a War Wizard for a while, I know pretty much everything they get. Their tactical wit, adding your intelligence to your initiative. There's things you could cherry pick, but yeah, it's definitely not optimal.
All right, so the last one we have is Warlock.
Yes, Warlock is going to be all about the subclasses and invocations.
So I know that there's a lot of things that are going to be kind of, interesting and will work. Again, you're going to have to look specifically at what the wording is and how well it's going to mix with how Wild Shape works.
You already mentioned the Great Old One earlier, which is a great way around the fact that you can't communicate through speech as a wild-shaped creature. But Great Old One telepathy, you can speak mind to mind with people. So not a bad way to go for that particular subclass. And there are going to be other niches that you can find interesting, creative ways. In this video, we're pretty much just covering the broader spectrum.
So there's a lot of things that you can wind up doing with Wild Shape. We went through the bulk of it here. But if you really got a cool idea for a character that you want to have that spends more time as an animal, dive deep into the subclasses and find out what you think is going to work best for your particular character theme.
With that, head down to the comments and you can let us know what you think. What are your favorite combinations with Wild Shape and your druid? Before we head on out of here, I want to invite you to join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party over on Patreon. Ted, what can they expect over there?
Every month, we're creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that both players and DMs alike can drop right into their game.
But that's not all. We do monthly giveaways and the patrons are automatically entered.
We also do weekly hangouts with our patrons and more.
So quest on down to the description, join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party on Patreon, and until next time, stay nerdy.